It smells so good in here. But there's some things that stink. And this is one of them. See this door here? I hate that slamming sound. I like it to be nice and quiet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the hinges that I got on this door. These. I'm going to replace them with soft close hinges. And it'll be so sweet when it goes shut. Here's the issue from the inside. So there's the hinge. Where are you there? I'm shooting this through the mirror so I can't tell where to look. I'm replacing these hinges with soft close Blum hinges. And then I'm going to have a really sweet door. I'll do that to both of them, but I'm only going to show you how to do this one. So the first thing I got to do is figure out what the overlay is. And that ain't a very hard job. What I got to do is use this little sticky note. I looked through this whole house. I can't find a full-size sticky note. So I got to use this little wimpy thing here. The sticky note goes on here. This is a precise deal here. You got to be right on the nose. That's right on the edge of the face frame. And here's how I calculate what the overlay is. I got to shut the door. I've done that before, I can tell you. Then I mark it there. And then all I got to do is measure that, and that's the overlay for my door. Then I'll order the hinges. That'll work on this door. There you are. So I have the soft close instead of the slammy hinges. This is the 38N series for a 1/2 inch overlay. If you remember, I had that little pink sticky note and I put a mark on it where what the overlay is, and it was 1/2 of an inch. So you can just order the hinge with the correct overlay, 1/2 inch overlay, and that's what I did. So I've got the hinges, the Blum soft close hinge for 1/2 inch overlay. Nice hinge. It has a soft close feature, but let's just say you got 2 hinges on your door and it closes too slow to satisfy you. You can switch the soft close off with this little switch right here on one of the hinges and leave the other one on, and it'll close a little bit faster if you like that. So when we put the door on, you're going to be able to see how that affects the closing of the door. Here's a close-up of the hole that I had to drill. This is a 35mm diameter hole, and I had to drill it from the edge of the door here, the edge of the door here, to the edge of the hole had to be 1/8 of an inch. So on my drill press, I set it up so when I drilled the hole, it would be 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the door, and then drilled the hole. My hinge fits down into that hole like that. I had to make sure it was nice and straight and lined up so that now I can use the Vicks bit like you see right here. I don't like to brag much about a Vicks bit, but if you want to get your hole in the center, then the Vicks bit will fit perfectly into this, and then boom, you drill your holes for your wood screws to go in there. And that makes it for a very nice, you can get things lined up real easy. If you don't pre-drill the holes, good chance that hinge is going to turn a little bit like this when you put the screws in, and then it's going to want to bind. So I do like to use a Vicks bit to pre-drill. I had to do that on both of them. I want to spend a little bit more time talking about this hinge. It's the 38N series from Blum. Really nice hinge. And you have to drill this 35mm hole, which we already talked about. The hole needs to be 1/2 inch deep. You can get by with 7/16, but I'd go 1/2 inch deep. To get it nice and straight, pilot these holes with a Vicks bit, like that, which I already did. And then a nice feature of these hinges is that right here, you have a cam adjustability. You can just turn that, your door can be attached, and you can turn your door from the left to the right. And then this screw here adjusts the door closer or farther away from the cabinet. So if you want it tight against the cabinet, you turn it one way and you can back it off the other way. That's a very nice feature of the hinge. Now if you want to move the door up and down, then you have to loosen the screw on the face frame and shift it up and down this way. This hinge, manufactured by Blum, is designed specifically for face frame cabinets because it has a tab here that you can use to, this wraps around a 3/4 inch face frame, and then it keeps it in place. That makes it really nice to mount this on a face frame cabinet. So in all, this is really a good hinge if you're going to replace some hinges that you already have, like I'm doing in this case. And then once those holes are piloted using a Vicks bit, then you can, it's pretty easy to put these screws in. Well, here we are back in the bathroom, and the first thing we've got to do is take the hinges off of the face frame. I took it off the door already, as you well know, and now I have to get it off of here. So I'm going to do that right now, and I don't know how to stand so as you can see this. The first thing I'm going to do is pilot the hole for the bottom hinge. I know exactly where it needs to be because I know exactly where this one was, and I took this one off, and so I want this hinge to be located in exactly the same place as far as the center is concerned. And remember I mentioned the hinge has these tabs that wrap around the face frame? Well, that really is nice, because I can center this hinge right there, and in some cases this tab fits so good on a face frame that it'll hold in place. Then I take my Vicks bit and center on that hole and drill my pilot hole. I'm using a number 3. That might be too small because I'm switching to a pan head here to go into the face frame in this particular case. Putting these doors on, it really isn't a one-man job, but I only have one man, so I got to do it this way. This door is on. Now that's a mighty slow, that's a pretty good soft close if you want soft, and that's soft. So let's just say we don't want it that soft. Then it's a matter of switching one of these off, and there's the switch right there. So I'm going to switch this one off. That means I have to cycle the door all the way. Now we only have one hinge that's doing the soft close feature. That's much nicer. I like that. Now what you're looking at here is retrofit. We're putting new hinges on old doors, and it works real good. I like it. It's a really good feature because it's a one-piece hinge. You don't have to have a hinge and a mounting plate. Very easy to work with. And so that's what makes it popular for the cabinet builder when he's doing new construction. And that's what can make it really handy for you when you're fixing up some cabinets at home. You should get you some of these.